Nebulous Fleet Command has always been one of those games that's incredibly easy to respect. You look at it and you think, blimey, this is doing some serious work. The sense of warfare, the ship design, the pacing, just the sheer amount of planning involved. It's very clever, it is uncompromising, and for people who click with it, it seems to be a full-blown obsession. But for plenty of players, it's also been a game easier to admire from afar than actually settle into. My name is Tom and this is LT Gaming. We cover everything strategy, space, and all sorts of deep mechanical stuff that usually scares people off who have a healthy social life. Now, if that sounds like your sort of thing, give the video a like, help us get out there on the algorithm, subscribe if you feel we earn it, and of course you can support the channel with a membership as well. This update does look genuinely interesting. It's not just more content, but it's a bit of a test for Nebulous Fleet Command itself. Can this brilliant, demanding, and slightly terrifying space tactics game finally turn into a more fuller and welcoming experience without losing what made it special in the first place? So at the centre of this update is the first act of Nebulous' campaign, and that means 17 missions spread across 3 zones, each zone building towards its own larger boss style battle. The setup is a pretty good one too. You're dealing with an OSP rebellion in a Bethel system. So rather than just rolling in at full strength with some heroic space armada, your alliance fleet starts off scattered and vulnerable behind enemy lines. So the campaign immediately has a bit more tension to it than here's mission 1, go blow everything up. As you move through those missions, the big hook here is that it's not meant to be a series of totally isolated fights. Ship damage, fuel and ammunition will all persist across the campaign, meaning there's going to be a sense of attrition and consequence here. You don't just have to win the current battle, you try not to wreck your chances down the line. They're also improving the flavour and how all this will play out. You can now board destroyed ships and harvest resources, which really fits the Nebulous vibe well because it gives that fleet management side a bit more texture. It's going to help the campaign sound more than just a bunch of skirmishes strung together with a few menus in between. The missions themselves seem to be leaning into more bespoke scenarios. For example, in the Glimmering Reach, you're trying to recover the heavy cruiser ANS Nomad Giant, which is already under pressure from the OSP line ships. Pretty cool vibe. Another one is the Blackwall Shipyard, which sounds more like a sabotage and opportunity mission, where taking out the shipyard can weaken the blockade, but if you hang around too long for supplies, you could get very exposed. Then beyond the official campaign, one of the smartest additions in the whole update is a campaign editor. This will let players build their own campaigns using the same toolset as the official one. I cannot wait to see what the community will do with this. Go nuts please. So taking this all together, it feels more than just like a content drop. This is Nebulous trying to add structure, persistence, and a bit of long form momentum to the game that's been defined by what happens inside individual battles up until now. So why does all of this matter for Nebulous? Because the key thing here is the game was never really crying out for more depth. If anything, the depth is why people either fall madly in love with the game or bounce off it completely. For the players who click with this game, it seems to become the space tactics game to play, not because it's flashy or fast in the traditional RTS sense, but because it rewards you with a very different sort of skill set. This is a game all about your planning, how you position your ships, information, design of those ships, and understanding how your toolset actually works, and then you try to not make a complete mess of it once everything starts going mental. That slower, more deliberate pace is a huge part of the appeal. It's not really asking who can click the fastest, it's asking who understood the fight better before it even started. And this is where people who love Nebulous seem to really lock in. They love the shipbuilding, they love the systems, they love the feeling of gradually understanding why one fleet might work and another doesn't at all. But of course, all of this does come with a cost, because all of that depth, all of that complexity, all of that, the game's amazing when it clicks stuff, means it's also asking a lot from the player. You don't just pop in, press a few buttons and start having a lovely time. You've got to learn the language of it. You've got to understand what ships are actually for, how to build your fleets with some kind of purpose, and how to not basically get thoroughly humbled by people who seem to have a better understanding of the space-based missile doctrine. And this is the reason why the campaign is a big step forward, because it doesn't need any more clever mechanics, it just needs a better way into these clever mechanics it already has. A proper campaign, when well done, will give those systems context, give them pacing, and will give newer players or more hesitant players a place to learn the game with the momentum, through scenarios, through persistence, and through actual stakes. So I'd be a bit remiss if I didn't mention some of the concerns around Nebulous as a game, because this is where it does get a bit tricky. The problem is the game has never lacked depth, as I said before. It has the opposite issue. Almost so much of what makes the game interesting, it can be very hard to get into. It does demand a lot from you. Building your ships in this game takes some thought. Building a proper fleet takes even more, and then using it all well in battle is another layer on top of that. It's not the sort of game where you just muddle through and have a decent time while learning. Mistakes feel costly, and the whole experience can feel more intimidating than inviting. And this is one of the biggest hurdles the game's had for a while. There's not much room to breathe. If it all clicks for you, amazing, you're gonna have a good time, you'll be hooked. But if it doesn't click early, you need a bit more structure to learn comfortably, and Nebulous feels like it asks a lot without giving you much back. The other issue is that it's remained a fairly niche game, and that does matter. In a smaller, more veteran-heavy environment, learning can feel even more harsher because you're not stepping into a space full of other new players figuring it all out. You step into a game where people have a lot of experience about what they're doing. And then there is the single player side of it. It's always felt like one of the big missing pieces. If PvP isn't your thing and you just want a better route to learn and into the systems, the game definitely hasn't had enough structure into that side of it. Tutorials only do so much, and what is more needed is a mode that lets players learn through their own pains, momentum, scenarios, and just getting into the longer term decision making. So for me, the concern with Nebulous is not whether it's a brilliant game or not, it's the path to get into the brilliance is probably a lot narrower than it should have been. Before we get to our discussion part, I just want to do a quick thank you to our higher tier channel members. It genuinely is helping us do these videos and it's hugely appreciated. So a massive thank you to Locutus, Karasaku, Stephen Shere, Dennis Egan, Mir, Divi Antros, Port Mundaz, Stephen Brodigan, Nexer EH, John Appel, Larry Beeman, James B, Walt Jas 1818, Cloud Strife, and if I've absolutely butchered one of your names, just let me know in the comments. Alright, back to it. So the big question is, will this campaign update actually solve any of this? I think it's going to help, yeah. The big win is going to be more setup and structure. Nebulous will finally be getting a mode where battles connect to each other, where damage, fuel, ammo carry forward, and this will take the game away from these isolated skirmishes into a proper campaign with momentum and some consequence. And for a game like this, that's going to mean a lot. Nebulous has always had strong systems, but it hasn't had the best framework around them for newer or less PvP focused players, and a campaign will give those systems context, and it will ultimately just give a newer player a more natural way to learn the game. So how do we wrap this one up, LT gamers? Overall, I think this is a very important update for Nebulous. It's a moment where they can bring back some maybe disgruntled players and then introduce the game to a whole new raft of ones as well. But those are all my thoughts on this. What do you guys think about this campaign update? Do you think it is the missing piece that Nebulous needed, or do you think the bigger challenge is just how demanding the game is still to get into? Let me know in the comments. As always, I will read them, and cheers for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye now.